Greater light. I did not mean for that intro to be that long. I couldn't find my glasses. And I mean, I got this other pair here, but they don't work as good as these that I have on my face now. I finally found them. They were behind the computer. Ooh. I didn't mean for the intro to, but I'm trying to shorten up the intro. And actually, that ain't even intro music. That's just background. Huh? All right. I got some research based on a dream that I had last night. So based on a dream that I had last night, I meant to talk about it this morning, but the distractions. God just told me focus only on him. Stop acting like I'm trying to help somebody. Only the Holy Spirit can do that. Focus on me and him, and anything that he wants to come from me is going to come naturally. It's not going to be forced. I'm not going to be stressed out trying to be something for somebody that only Jesus could be, only God can be. That's why I'm bucking my head and having extra heart palpitations and stuff like that. Oh no, wake up. Wake up. But it is also based on the motivated brain and what I want to believe. But that's the title that I'm going to be dealing with right now. I'm trying to figure out if I should go ahead and do this, read chapter 2, and then go over to that research that I have about the dream that I had last night, past shadow hours. I think that's what I'm going to do, because chapter 2 doesn't seem to be that long unless I go into more digital research. I read part of chapter 2 this morning. I did. I read part of chapter 2 this morning. Okay, here we go. The motivated brain, what you want to believe. Ooh, I'm full. I cooked a meal. I'm hoping to issue some of it out tomorrow. That the greens just wasn't how I wanted them to be. It's good that I'm trying to lighten up on the high seasonings. Not the herbs, but just the salts. Because my blood pressure has been so high lately. Past 4 days. Every day, too, somebody asking me, why your eyes so red? And I say my blood pressure high, but then somebody would come right behind and say, I smell something. I'm just saying. That means that I'm doing too much. I don't want to be one of them disciples. I'm not one of them disciples. God didn't make me that way. He didn't make me that way. He made it just the way that when I be out there singing, that's natural. Singing as a testimony for him, and whatever words he give me in between the songs, that's natural. All this other stuff, if I ain't reading, this gives me peace. And all that trying to reach out, and everybody have their own place in the world and their own jobs given to them. Well, it ain't a job, but your own mission given directly by God. And the Holy Spirit will let you know when you need to stay in your lane. And he letting me know that I need to stay in my lane and stop trying to be in other people's lanes, trying to help grown people who I'm no different than. Huh? We all on the same boat. I was doing too much. Huh? I renounce that part of the flesh right now in Jesus' name. Huh? I ask God right now, out loud and in public, to allow my husband all that I want and see in other people, all the desires of my heart, that my husband be shaped and molded by him and find me sooner than later. Huh? In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. Somebody touch and agree with me. Huh? I've been legs closed for a long time. Huh? Keeping my mind stayed on Jesus. Huh? Preaching and teaching about his soon to return for over 2 years. Huh? Whether it came through the green lights. Huh? My voice almost gone. Oh, let my voice be back for in the morning. At the end of it all, people almost invariably arrive at their beliefs, not on the basis of proof, but on the basis of what they find attractive. Making the truth more fluent is easier said than done when our brains are motivated to reject the truth. The 17th century mathematician Blaise Pascal noted this nearly 400 years ago. Pascal made tremendous contributions to the study of probability and even laid the foundation for the modern calculator. Although he was a man of science, his final words were about his faith. May God never leave me. God, never leave me, God. What's particularly interesting here is that Pascal never appeared to have had a deep affinity with religion until one night when he experienced an episode featuring flashes of bright light, which led to a devout religious conversion. Pascal later came up with a famous game theoretic puzzle known as the Pascal's Wager, which aimed to prove that belief in God is a rational consequence of considering our options. He liked gambling problems. God is or he is not. But to which side shall we incline? Pascal assumed that either God does or does not exist, and either you believe in God or you do not believe in God. If you wager that God exists and you believe, then you will be rewarded with eternal life in heaven. If God exists and you do not believe, then there will be suffering and eternal damnation. If God does not exist and you still believe, then perhaps you've wasted some time. But if God doesn't exist and you do not believe either, then nothing is lost anyway. So overall, the cost benefit analysis clearly suggests that while little is lost believing in God, there's everything to be gained. Or in Pascal's own words, if you gain all. If you lose nothing. Wager then without hesitation that God is. In mathematical terms, believing in God is a super dominant strategy. After all, even if you are a skeptic and assume that the probability of God existing is tiny, tiny times infinite heavenly benefits is still an infinite benefit, which looks rather attractive compared to infinite hellfire. I got to stop on this part right here. I was talking to my sister earlier, and a situation happened yesterday where her foot caught on fire. And I said, now that I know that you're okay, you don't mind me laughing because I just had a picture in my mind. And I said, I don't want to imagine, being in hellfire and it can't be put out. At least you was able to get it put out. And you had a man husband right there to help her put it out. I don't want to be in a situation where there's nobody there to help put it out. I mean, I'm here on earth and can't get a person to help me put out the things that's making my heart burn to the point where it's pumping so hard that my blood pressure is sky high. So I'm sure not going to let people and individuals or whatever it is that they dealing with, whether you want to call it dealing with wicked spiritualness in high places, spiritual wickedness in high places, or whatever it is. Somebody said we all got a demon. No, we don't. That's like saying everybody got a wife. No, they don't. Everybody ain't married. When you choose to walk a certain way, some people, they decide I'm going to be single. No, I'm going to be celibate. And then somebody will tell them, oh, I seen you. You got a man. And that person, they ain't got no man. They ain't been with nobody. That make them the liar. They seeing what they want to see. You believe what you want to believe. Anyways, how I got there, the fire and the flames. My sister said, I can't understand what you said. You won't stop laughing. Oh, yeah, no. In mathematical terms, believing in God is a super dominant strategy. After all, even if you're a skeptic, I have to read it again, and assume that the probability of God existing is tiny. Tiny times infinite heavenly benefits is still an infinite benefit, which looks rather attractive compared to an infinite hellfire. But did Pascal sincerely believe in his own logical proof, or did he recruit his remarkable appetite for maths to justify a new, more religious view of the world that he deemed much more appealing? Pascal's wager appeared about 3 years after his sudden conversion, and the presumed gains and losses are clearly derived from a Christian understanding of God. Pascal was in fact known to be a Christian apologetic, that is, someone who worked on the intellectual justification of religion. Of course, we may never know the true state of Pascal's own belief, but this constant tension between our search for truth and what we want to believe about the world is the focus of this chapter. Why do some people deny climate change, refuse to eat genetically modified food, or think vaccines can cause autism? Do they have a different understanding of the truth? Or are they motivated to reject it because they find it unappealing? Greater Light, Alchemos 83. Ninja. Greater Light. The Bayesian brain. Now, that research that I was talking about that I did earlier based on my dream brought up the word basil, the basalnic or basalnic churches, but I would like to say bays, the basil. So based on this dream about this cube, and it wasn't the cube, the physical one, but anyways, that word came up. So here I am now on the Bayesian brain. When the English economist John Maynard Keynes was once challenged for changing his position on an issue, he reportedly replied, "When information changes, I change my mind." What do you do, sir? Scientists argue a lot over models and convincingly explain how the human brain reasons about evidence. Remember this morning I was singing evidence, evidence, what does your life say? If the brain were optimally attuned to processing evidence, many of us think the brain would be a Bayesian. Bayes' theorem was named after the 18th century English mathematician Reverend Thomas Bayes and his works on conditional probabilities. In its simplest form, Bayes' rule can be thought of as a formula for how to update probabilities that certain hypotheses we might have about the world are true, given the available evidence. In other words, you might have established some prior beliefs about an event, for example, that NASA faked the moon landing. You then encounter a piece of evidence, such as a statistic or fact, which strongly contradicts this belief, such as the 300 kilos of verified moon rock that the astronauts brought back. That's proof? Oh, yeah, right. They had that on the ship before they got up there. And Bayesian's approach, which would update your new, formerly called posterior belief in accordance to this evidence. So, is the human brain Bayesian or Bayesian, the Bayesian? It's an attractive model that fits quite naturally with the way that people update their beliefs about the world. It's how scientists should conduct their experiments. We have a hypothesis about the world. We go out and observe the evidence, and we change our beliefs about the likelihood of various hypotheses accordingly. You might mistakenly believe that putting your hand on a hot stove will not cause a burn until you find out firsthand, pun intended, that it does. And you change your beliefs in light of the irrefutable evidence from the school of hard knocks. We all navigate our environments with prior expectations about how the world works. Remember, top-down cognition. Then we observe the evidence, correct, update, and change course accordingly. We mistakenly thought we had observed a triangle in the optical illusion, but following the evidence that our brains were being misled, we no longer think that a triangle is there. We can still see it, but at least we now know we're dealing with a visual illusion. I still see the triangle. So far, so good. It turns out, though, that in many instances, people seem to be doing the complete opposite of what the good Reverend Thomas Bayes would have predicted. Instead of updating towards the evidence, people either do not update their beliefs or they actually update away from the evidence. The post-truth era has fundamentally challenged the notion that the brain is fully Bayesian or the ultimate fact checker for the matter. How is this possible? Let's consider the contested fact that many more people attended Donald Trump's presidential inauguration than President Barack Obama's inauguration. One way to make the truth stand out more is via the use of images. Images can help make the truth more fluent. For example, by highlighting what we intuitively recognize as big and small numbers. This is justified when the images help represent the magnitude of the actual numbers. Let's have a look at the image, which heavily featured in world media. Now, it's heavily featured in world media. But then again, that could be artificial intelligently docked up. And you mean people were standing on top of, see, who knows? Who knows? I don't know. Donald Trump himself claimed that 1.5 million people attended his inauguration, whereas experts have calculated turnouts anywhere between 300,000 and 600,000. Sean Spicer, the White House press secretary and communications director, claimed on the 21st of January 2017 that Trump drew the largest audience ever to witness an inauguration period. The photos have illustrated the turnout for President Obama's inauguration in 2009 on the left and Trump's inauguration in 2017 on the right, and quickly read fluently and invalidate this claim. And quickly invalidate this claim, my bad. If Sean Spencer were, for the sake of argument, Bayesian, he would have updated his beliefs in light of the overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Instead, when questioned by reporters a few days later, he doubled down on his initial statement. In other words, his posterior belief, as he expressed it, did not move closer towards the evidence. If anything, it seemed to move further away from it. Greater like King Ellis, seaweed is also a super load. They know now. Yesterday's story was awesome. Could it be the wheat was actually seaweed? Uh-oh. Which they ate before touching the shores. Maybe. Sounds like it may be a time to look, and update the motivated brain. Check out the posterior belief. That's what you're saying, Akamos. Sounds about right to me. Maybe they took and made some Irish mush. Just thinking along, I'm just saying. That is a good thought. Because I know you could drink 1 cup of Irish mush and be energized for a whole 2 days, cleaned out and all. Of course, we cannot be certain as to whether Spicer truly believed the claim, misinformation, or whether he was intentionally and knowingly deceiving his audience, disinformation. We may lean towards concluding that latter in this case, but it's often difficult psychologically to disentangle whether some is fighting for a sincerely held belief or motivated to arrive at a particular conclusion. We'll unpack this dilemma later on, but for now, let us suffice to say that making the truth fluent is therefore not always enough in the face of what we call motivated cognition. That is, our beliefs are not driven by evidence, but rather by an underlying political motivation that leads us to willingly distort our perception of the evidence to fit our world view. To fit our worldview, here we go, rather than the other way around. In fact, it wasn't just Sean Spicer. 2 researchers surveyed over 1,000 Americans, showing them the exact same 2 photographs, but with one twist. This time they did not reveal which image belonged to which inauguration. One group was asked to identify which image belonged to Trump's inauguration and which belonged to Obama's. On this question, 41% of Trump voters gave the wrong answer compared to 8% of Hillary Clinton voters. What? How he went to Obama to Hillary Clinton? Perhaps they just assumed the turnout for Trump was bigger than it really was. Yet another group was asked much simpler question: which photo has more people in it? Still, 50% of Trump voters said that there were more people present in the right-hand image, Trump's inauguration, than the left-hand image, compared to 2% of Clinton voters. You see how this just switched up? He playing a mind game here. He playing a mind game here because this was supposed to be about Obama. And then it went from Obama to Clinton voters. Okay. Still, 50% of Trump voters said there were more people present in the right-hand image, Trump's inauguration, than on the left-hand image compared to 2% of Clinton voters. The researchers were so stunned by this result that they concluded that something else must be going on. You cannot look at these images and conclude with a straight face that the image on the right has more people than the image on the left. The answer is politically motivated. I like to think that nobody is completely immune to evidence, at least in the long run. After he vacated his post, Sean Spicer eventually admitted to regretting having made these false claims and even joked about them in 2017 Emmys, saying, "This will be the largest audience to witness an Emmys, period, both in person and around the globe." Of course, such confessions are too little too late. Illusory truth has set in after countless repetition, and much of the damage has already been done. Here we go. Here we go. Put that up there. Ready? Why your brain is motivated. So back to the motivated brain. Like Bayesian model, the motivated brain hypothesis has a lot going for it. The essential idea is that our basic cognitive processes, including our brain, perception, attention, and especially our judgments, are colored by our own motivations. Rather than just seeing evidence for what it is, you could think of it as strong top interference. Your brain is filling the gap for you based on what you'd like to be true. So if somebody want to see you down, want to see you stressed out because they live in a stressed out life, want to see you with demons because they going to see everybody around them with demons. They're not going to take accountability. This is where accountability and stuff come in. They don't want to know that somebody can live righteous and holy. They'll go and get advice from people who said that they live in righteous and holy and don't have no evidence of it. But they'll find somebody that's been by their side, the same for years, and want to look for the demons. That's something like what this is like. This whole poll, this whole idea of the people that had the picture looking at a bunch of people at the inauguration on one side. I'm talking about it's so many people, you don't even see any clear spaces on the White House lawn. And then on the other one was just a lot of people, but not that much. Because of what they want to see. So what's the brain's motivation? This is where you learn to test people's motives also. That's how discernment comes in. Discernment. If you testing the motivation or the brain's motive based on, this is where it comes where you don't have to argue your innocence or prove anything, or it becomes easier to cut off what doesn't serve you. Evidence is in action. It's in, wait, lights in the light. Action. Oh my goodness. My bad. That's a side thing. That's just me and my way of continuing to calm down my heart rate. Because if I go to the emergency room right now, they ain't gonna do well. Now that I got insurance, they may keep me. But who wants to be kept? I want my brain to be motivated in the healing in the name of Jesus. That's what I want. Huh? That's it. Let me start over. Why your brain is motivated. So back to the motivated brain. Like the basic model, the motivated brain hypothesis has a lot going for it. The essential idea that it is our basic cognitive processes, including our memory, perception, attention, especially our judgments, are colored by our own motivations. Rather than just seeing evidence for what it is, you could think of it as a strong top-down interference. Your brain is filling the gaps for you based on what you like to be true. Why do you choose to read one news article but not another? Unlike low-level perception, in which the brain is trying to lend a hand but sometimes fails, think about optical illusion. Light. Okay, the motivated brain selectively and consciously seeks out or rejects evidence in a way that supports what you already believe. This is not so strange when you think about the fact that a lot of our everyday reasoning is motivated. And there are different kinds of motivations, some of which are good and some of which are not noble, like fluency. Motivation isn't inherently a bad thing itself. In fact, it is quite essential. Why do you get out of bed in the morning? What motivates you to get out of bed? You're probably motivated by something, whether it's an appointment, your job, your parents, you name it. Similarly, our thinking and reasoning processes often start out with a goal. For example, you may be trying to figure out who to vote for, or what college to apply to, or whether or not to vaccinate your children. In these instances, your thoughts are often inevitably guided by your pre-existing beliefs or motivations to help you achieve that goal. There are exceptions, of course. Sometimes our minds simply wander and there are no motivations. But when you're faced with something you value, enjoy, or care deeply about, goals and motivations often come into play. One such basic guiding motivation is the desire to be acquainted with facts, to be accurate. Everyone has the capability to be motivated by accuracy. We just want to know the truth, discover how something really works, or uncover the best available evidence on a topic. What psychological guess can accuracy motivation is a fundamental force that drives much of human cognition. We can all think of a time when we used all of our mental resources to find out the cold, hard truth. Alchemos 83. Oh, well, nice to meet you too, huh? Nice to meet you. He's meeting King Ellis. I thought y'all already knew each other. I thought y'all already knew each other, Alchemos. Greater light. The situations in which we find ourselves, especially online, here's online motivations, aren't always conducted or conductive of eliciting accuracy motivations. We are constantly bombarded with information from the stories we hear on TV and radio to social media and online news sites. It's impossible to pay attention to everything. We have to choose. Perhaps unsurprisingly, our attention and perception are therefore selective. We can only process so much information. Under these conditions, we are likely to process information that we are motivated to consume. Human attention is selective for a good reason. When I was a postdoctoral researcher studying the Eldar Shafir, that looked like a name in the research that I did earlier before I started reading about the dream I had. Eldar Shafir, currently professor of psychology and public affairs at Princeton University, I learned a lot about the idea of cognitive bandwidth. I just pulled out those papers on bandwidths earlier and I put them back. I got a lot going on. My brain, can you handle all this brain, huh? I learned a lot about the idea of cognitive bandwidth. Eldar studies decision making in the context of poverty and wrote an entire book about how the circumstances of poverty can be detrimental to adaptive decision making. Here's the basic idea. If you're relatively poor, your attention is occupied with working out how to pay bills, putting out fires, and making ends meet, leaving much less brain power to dedicate to planning and anticipating future problems. It turns out that this principle generalizes fairly well. If I stress you out, your mental bandwidth for other things would steadily decline. See, I figured that out today. I figure out why is this entity pressing so hard to judge and stress me. For all the years, there's an imbalance. For all the years that I've been supportive, to all of a sudden, when I get to the point where I'm at in my life where everything's being laid out, because I'm thinking more on a balanced level, no drugs in my system, less and less, because the more the drugs clean out of my system, a lot of people like, well, you've been clean 30 days, you've been clean. Just in your hair follicles alone, it takes over 7 years for chemicals, those drug chemicals, to get out of here. So what do you think of the parts that man hasn't told you about? You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, the certain, until you're the system, I'm trying to have the system meet with the spiritual. So there's ups and downs, but there ain't no demons in it. Ain't no demons. My bad. How did I go there? Relatively poor. Yeah, so here he's saying it himself, the writer, the author. If I stress you out, your mental bandwidth for other things would steadily decline. So I realized the motives of what's going on. When you're under stress, the brain resorts to relying on shortcuts, like literally 3 days last week, I didn't do my morning ritual, my morning lives, because I was focused on putting energy into somebody who wasn't putting that energy back into me. And they were stressing me to the point not get the currency. Your energy is your currency. They was draining all of my energy, but not giving it back to me. And then I didn't do what I normally do for 3 days. I didn't go live because I was so stressed and had people telling me you should go to the emergency room. Not based on nothing but just how red my eyes are from being stressed out. And for me to try to comprehend that all these years, and it's like as soon as things shifted, then this person finally appeared. I'm talking about I've been on the street for 3 months, laying on concrete. That person didn't try to come to my rescue then or come around me then. But as soon as I turned it all over to Jesus, like, oh no, I got to come out of the community and start coming to where you at and stress you out. I'm on a mission. I ain't stopping. Whatever it is that I started, when I started this, I'm bringing it into a full force flesh. And now that I realize the motives, the only thing I could do is send positive, motivated energy towards that being in just the way that I see every other being around me in my life now. So it's a fair energy exchange. I don't need to have that energy interfering with me anymore. I can push my energy out the same way that I take when I stand out there and push my energy out to hundreds of people on a daily basis. Every day, more and more, I have people coming and saying that the energy that's flowing from them is healing them spiritually and mentally. And they keep coming back. Now, that's not me. That's the light and love from within me. But this spiritual wickedness in high places, and some people don't even realize that they're being used. Some people wouldn't even realize that they're being used. So the spiritual energy and all the high places that don't want me pushing out this love and light will send the closest one to me that say, nah, I got to pull your energy to distract you, to make you to the point where you don't even want to go out there and sing. You don't even want to go out there and witness. You don't even want to go out there and put your hand and rub people back or hug those children that look like your son when he was alive in them chairs. The children that are close to deformed. The adopted children that walk up. People who are lost. People who are on drugs, all the walks of life that I did experience out of my own experience. That the love and light I can push out with my tone and frequency. Thank you, God, for using me. So no, I'm not mad at the one person that may not can see that they being used. The only thing that I could do now is take and do to give that person the same energy that I've been doing and think about and take care of this flesh while I stay armored up. I let my armor down, I let my armor down just for a few days. So that's what this right here is. He said it clear as day. What's his name? Sander Vander Linden. He said, if I can stress you out, your mental bandwidth for other things will steadily decline. When under stress, the brain resorts to relying on shortcuts, also known as heuristics or rules of thumb. We can't escape the concept of fluency here either. because our brain processes information that we like or agree with faster than information which conflicts with our preconception about the world. This shortcut or heuristic is called confirmation bias. Confirmation. Evidence. Does your life show enough evidence? Did anybody watch that live that I did earlier? Does anybody know where that intro come from? King Ellis, do you remember that? I don't know how old you are. Huh? Alchemist, I don't know how this, do any of you remember that? Evidence intro. What does your life say? I had it in my mind today, and I said, if anybody come across me today and see me, they'll know that that's the song playing in my head, in my mind, huh? Evidence. We are biased in the sense that we are quicker to confirm and accept evidence that fits our worldview than evidence which contradicts it. Information that challenges what we know to be true about the world is cognitively much more taxing to deal with. People have a strong desire to hold internally consistent beliefs. People have a strong desire to hold internally consistent beliefs. So evidence that challenges some of these beliefs will result in a state of having to deal with conflicting thoughts, or what we call cognitive dissonance. This dissonance can be resolved by either updating one's beliefs or by rejecting the evidence instead. Unfortunately, the latter is often much easier. There are interesting examples of the way our brains can selectively shape how we pay attention to evidence. In 2019, 2 Canadian researchers decided to evaluate how people attend to evidence about global warming, a very politically polarized issue, especially in the United States. To do so, they had liberals and conservatives look at the same graph of annual global temperature change while recording their gaze. Participants, wait a minute. To do so, they had liberals and conservatives look at the same graph of annual global temperature change while recording their gaze. Participants were asked to sit about 50 centimeters from the computer screen, whilst hooked up to a mobile eye tracking device. When was this done? What year? 2019. 2019, the mobile eye tracking device. The researchers then generated a heat map that showed the amount of time the participants spent dwelling on a section of the curve. If they had that technology then spent on how a heat map from their eyes, dwelling on a section of the curve, the heat map from their eyes, meaning the artificial intelligence is judging as they track your eyes when you're reading through the phone. See, he did it. He said it. Anyways, the researchers then generated a heat map that showed the amount of time participants spent dwelling on a section of the curve. What they found was that liberals, who are more likely to believe in climate change, spent more time than conservatives looking at the rising trend. In other words, the pattern of their attention was motivated by their prior understanding of the evidence. Importantly, when researchers specifically drew attention to the rising trend from 1990 onwards, as opposed to the flatter phase, the flatter phase in 1940 through 1980, liberals were more likely to perceive rising temperatures and sign a petition to act on climate change. In contrast, this was not the case for conservatives. Political ideologies can thus shape our basic attention. Y'all know how I see words, right? Anybody who's here that's been around me for a minute and know how I like to break down words and look at words. So look, they just showed when the flat earth phase really came into attention through this right here. Look, it says, and the curve, it went from curve to flat earth, right? Look up the saying. It says, section of the curve, dwelling on the section of the curve. Liberals were more likely to believe the climate change. Now, remember, I told y'all climate change ain't always about the climax. I said that the other day. The rising trend, the pattern of their attention, the evidence, the rising trend from 1990. Hold on, let me call. Give me a second. Let me answer this call. Thank you. Thank you for waiting. Yeah, I had to take that one. I definitely had to take that one. I thought my ringer was off. Let me turn it off now. Okay, there we go. All right, where was I? Okay, so then it goes to the trend from 1990 onwards, and it says opposed to the flatter phase of 1940 through 1980. Oh, look at the ink on this pen. I got a busted ink pen. Um, so that was just, a little throw off there. How they got the flat and the curve and these times and dates here with it. So, anyways, now let me move on. Crucially, and this nuance often gets lost, even in scientific literature, there's an important difference between selectively attending to evidence or being quicker to accept evidence that fits our worldview, and a deep motivation to actually reject evidence because it doesn't fit with our personal or political beliefs. Some people might even become more extreme in their beliefs after being exposed to evidence that disconfirms their beliefs. Think back to Sean Spicer doubling down on his initial position after fact checkers challenged him on the inauguration turnout. This tendency is commonly known as the worldview backfire effect or belief polarization. All of these terms, including confirmation bias, motivated reasoning, and polarization, often get mixed up, both in popular media and in the scientific literature. But they actually mean different things. In the diagram below, I place these terms on a spectrum using traditional warning signs as a barometer for the degree of post-truth danger. Uh-oh. This transition from the more common, milder intuitive heuristics, such as selective perception and confirmation bias, to the rare, relatively infrequent, but more deliberate bias, such as motivating reasoning and belief polarization, a full alert mode, full blown conspiracy level theorizing. Wow. Oh, greater light, royal and loyal. Greater light. What did I do to deserve this? Royal and loyal. Look, so there's a graph here that I should go ahead and take a picture and put it in a community post now. I'm gonna put it in a community post right now so that I gotta take a picture of it first. Take a picture. I was gonna do this earlier and I said, no, that's okay. I changed my mind. And now let's change my mind back. Uh boy. Here we go. So this is um the graph I'm about to read. Next. Conspiracy level theorizing. Conspiracy level theorizing. It's a theory. It's only a theory. It's only a theory. There we go. Oh, my system want to move real slow right now. Come on, don't do that. Well, whenever it settles out, it has the graph starts off at intuitive and goes to deliberate, and then under intuitive, common, And then under deliberate, rare. And then it has selective perception, motivated reasoning, which has 3 warning signs. And conspiracy level has 5 pyramid warning signs. And post-truth danger is what it ends off at, which is deliberate and rare. And then confirmation bias and belief polarization. So I'm again, well, my phone is moving real slow and acting like it don't want to load this information, but or for me to upload it, but I'm sending it anyway. Whether it be later than latter, it's coming. That graph on conspiracy level theorizing. Okay, the social context. Some situations decrease accuracy motivation in favor of other kinds of motivations. Yet these other motivations do not always need to be political or deliberately malevolent or nefarious. There's that word. Sometimes we willingly distort our perception of the evidence for social purposes because we have a deep need to belong and identify with like minded others. This can often be far more powerful and adaptive motivation to navigate the world. In fact, one key site from social psychology is that we derive a part of our identities from the groups that we belong to. Thus, we often need to balance social motivations, such as the need to fit in, against our desire accuracy. Solomon Asch was one of the first social psychologists to demonstrate the power of group pressure on individual perceptions of evidence. So you might have one person that just wanted to belong so bad and could not belong. You might have 2 people. Let's say you got 2 people that wanted to belong so bad but couldn't really fit in. And one found its own way and said, I don't need to belong to a group. And the other one wanted to belong to a group so bad that they will find the other one and say, well, I will destroy you so I can belong to the group. Situations like that happen. I will track you down because of you. I don't belong. That's just a theory. I'm not saying that actually happened anywhere in life. I was just trying to wait for my phone to hurry up and load up and giving you some entertainment purposes. Anyways, let me go back. Solomon Asch was one of the first psychologists to demonstrate the power of group pressure on individual perceptions of evidence. In 1955, Asch asked 1, 2, 3 male participants to be part of a visual judgment study, or so they were told. Each person was part of a small group that mostly consisted of Confederates, a research term for people who secretly know the true goal of the experiment. Oh, in each trial, Asch had about 6 men sit next to each other. In the photo of the original experiment below, all the men were Confederates except the young man with the white t-shirt. They were all then asked to answer a deceivingly simple question aloud. What line on the right, A, B, or C, best matches the line on the left? This is not an optical illusion. The correct answer is C. Asch was interested in what the people would do when the majority of the Confederates deliberately gave the wrong answer. Would people still give the correct answer or distort the evidence in front of their eyes to conform to the group? The ones who want to conform to the group, and then the ones who just don't. Let's see what this young man did. Participants in the seminal line judgment experiments conducted by Solomon Ash during the 1950s. All but one participant was a Confederate instructed to give the wrong answer. Probably to Ash's surprise, 75% of participants gave the wrong answer at least once over the course of 12 trials. That is, they looked at the evidence and decided to jump on a bandwagon instead. Here, social motivations overrode accuracy. Oh my goodness gracious. No. Is it possible? Does it happen like that? Oh my goodness. This finding was so shocking that it has populated psychology textbooks for decades. In fact, when I interview students for admission to Cambridge, it's still one of the key experiments they will bring up for discussion. Curiously, though, they often don't seem aware of the critiques. I mention this because Ash's findings, whilst undoubtedly important, have also been exaggerated. The analysis of 20 major psychology textbooks found that most of the descriptions leave out the fact that only a small minority, 5%, were always swayed by the crowd, whereas 95% challenged the majority at least once. Okay. This illustrates that extreme distortions of evidence are still relatively infrequent and that they take place in context of internal struggle between the desire for accuracy and other competent motivations. Qualitative interviews with participants from Ash's conformity experiments reveal that some of them just weren't sure what most accurate answer was and therefore looked to others for guidance. This informational motivation runs contrary to the classical conformity explanation. Sometimes the motivation to be accurate and the motivation to be liked are difficult to disentangle for an outside observer. So, which is it? The honest answer is that our best guess is both. Ash's participants were likely motivated by a need to be accurate, looking for the right answer by observing the judgment of others, as well as the need to be social, conforming to the behavior of others. Psychological motivations are hard to isolate. My good colleague, Jamie Drunkman, no, my good colleague, Jamie Drunkman, a professor of political science in Northwestern University, Illinois, refers to this as an observational equivalence problem. Sometimes I believe all these names they be throwing out don't actually be people they know. I believe that be their alter egos. I really do. I really believe that these, like him, if you look at his pictures, Sander van der Linden, he, I'm just saying, he just have a look like most of the people he dealt with didn't like him anyway. And he just made up a whole bunch of alter egos and gave them names. And he so dissident, like there's that he don't really deal with people. Like he not that sociable anyway. And he just got names on a wall that are his alter egos. And he gave them faces and stuff and says, my good friend. I'm saying that's what he looked like to me. I don't know. Or in his computer games, because he's somebody that liked dealing with artificial intelligence in games, that his Jamie Drunkman is alter ego in one of his games, like fake news, bad news games or something. He probably got a game all for himself that nobody on earth has ever played but him. I'm just saying, okay, my good colleague, Jamie Drunkman, a professor of political science at Northwestern University, Illinois, refers to this as an observational equivalence problem. Just by looking at someone's behavior, it is difficult to know what motivates them. Is it accuracy or something else? To illustrate Drunkman's point, Here's an alternative explanation that makes this puzzle clear. Rather than some deliberate motivation to willingly distort evidence, it could be that people are misinformed due to selective exposure, especially a hyper-partisan or polarized media landscape, such as in the United States. You're more likely to be exposed to only one or few sources of information about a topic. Think CNN, Fox News. How are you to know any different? It may very well be that people believe that their attitudes are based on accurate information. Think back to the inauguration photos. Perhaps Trump supporters believe that the largest Trump turnout image belonged to Trump's inauguration because that's what they've been told was true from a source they deemed credible. At the same time, many like minded friends and family may have also endorsed the same belief. Knowledge is community based. In other words, you may endorse a false claim because you deem the source to be credible. That's exactly what my graduate student Cecil Treberg found in one of our studies. We exposed conservatives and liberals to a set of false and true headlines. See the example headline below. But randomly varied the source so that the same headline would either come from a conservative news source, say Fox News, or a liberal source, say Washington Post. We would then ask a participant how accurate they found the headline. The results were overwhelmingly clear. Conservatives were more likely to rate the same misinformation as true when it came from a conservative rather than a liberal source. The liberals were more likely to rate the misinformation as true when it came from a liberal versus a conservative source. But both rated politically congenial resources as more credible. This is just as what I was saying earlier in my own day-to-day experience with certain individuals. Although we experimentally manipulated the source in our study, we didn't activate people's motivations to be accurate. It turns out that economists have found a rather amusing way to do this. One way to incentivize accuracy over social motivations when it comes to matters of facts is to pay people for the correct answer. That's right. Facts are for sale. In these experiments, people are often told that the more answers they get correct, including political questions, the higher the pay. So that what happens when money is on the table? What happens, huh? Well, more people answered the factual questions correctly. We have replicated these findings in our own lab as well. When you offer partisans, committed members of the political party, a money reward for giving correct answers, they make fewer errors. And this reduces political biases on both sides. This implies that at least some people initially answered based on political motivations. But that doesn't mean they don't know the actual answer. When properly incentivized, people are willing to temporarily forego their ideological commitments, but paying the whole population to be accurate could get quite expensive. So how about just using evidence? Why scientists are poles apart on evidence for polarization? The now widely polarized idea that people will become further entrenched in their worldview if you repeatedly try to challenge their beliefs with factual evidence finds its roots in a clever Stanford study. This study has been cited over 5,000 times in scientific literature. That's a lot. In a nutshell, whilst at Stanford University, psychologist Charles Lord and Lee Ross asked a bunch of students to give their opinion on capital punishment, and still a controversial issue in the United States. A few weeks later, they invited a group of opponents and proponents back to the lab to consider two pieces of evidence, one confirming, one disconfirming their beliefs about the efficacy of death penalty. Death penalty. As the researchers predicted, students rated results that confirmed their own opinions as more accurate than more convincing. The net effect of the exercise was that both groups strengthened their initial beliefs, thus ending up with a more polarized attitude and drifting further apart than before they were presented with the evidence. For example, a proponent of capital punishment would claim that the supporting study was well thought out and valid, but the disconfirming evidence had too many flaws. Surprisingly, the facts backfired. Dan Kahan, a professor of law of psychology at Yale University, is a big proponent of what he calls identity protective or cultural cognition. Essentially, the argument goes like this: people are motivated to protect the kind of values and beliefs that define their commitments to important groups with whom they identify and affiliate. What's more, Dan and his group suggested that people actively recruit their reasoning abilities to distort the evidence. The more numerate, science literate, and educated you are, the better you can direct these skills at defending your beliefs. For example, in one study, they found that if you zoom in on those with the highest scientific literacy scores, the opinion gap between liberals and conservatives on climate change doesn't get smaller, it gets bigger. Other studies have also found that people with the greatest level of scientific education are most polarized on issues such as human evolution and climate change. These findings imply, on average, those who are the most ideologically committed, and the most scientifically literate show the greatest level of polarization on contested scientific issues. It's an interesting idea, and some scholars find it compelling version of the motivated brain hypothesis. However, I see Dan's motivated numeracy model as the most extreme version for the motivated brain. If true, it describes a reasoning process suggestive of the alarming end of my post-truth danger spectrum. Did my phone finally load up? Goodness, it's still loading. They don't want me to put up his spectrum. Huh? He don't want his spectrum put up. Is that alter egos or ALTAR? Huh? He goes, huh? Alter he goes, huh? I'm waiting. See, my phone's still, I don't know, it's doing its own thing. Back to the scientific issues of the polarization. Hold up. Where was I? I got all happy. However, I see Dan's motivated numeracy model as the most extreme version of the motivated brain. If true, it describes a reasoning process suggested of the alarming end of my post-truth danger spectrum, and in many ways almost defies the purpose of education. Accordingly, there's a heated scientific debate about motivated versus the Bayesian accuracy brain hypothesis. Admittedly, I have been one of the leading opponents of Dan Kahan's cultural or motivated cognition theory, and recent replications have largely failed to reproduce his most extreme claims. We get along great on personal level at academic retreats. For example, I found memories of hiking through the beautiful Swiss mountains together. But as soon as we start talking about work, we firmly disagree. It, it's not that people don't know the evidence, Dan would say, slightly raising his voice. They do know it. But why would they want to accept a scientific consensus that runs contrary to their political identity? He just doesn't think it's a realistic prospect. Dan has written some passionate blog posts on his Yale website about our differences. I think the disagreement largely boils down to the fact that I am much less committed to singular explanation than Dan is. Broadly speaking, there are two competing camps. One side, including Kahan's group, argue that people are inherently tribal and motivated to reject inconvenient evidence, and that the smarter you are, the better you can twist the facts to fit your world view. Ha 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 ha. The other side argues that most people aren't that political at all. And the better critical thinking, the reasoning skills make you less likely to fall for fake news and can actually help you control your biases. Let me read that one more time. The other side argues that most people aren't that political at all, and that better critical thinking and reasoning skills make you less likely to fall for fake news. It can actually help you control your biases. Dan often quotes the maxim, many more explanations are plausible than true, by which he likely means that there can only be one correct account. Yet, I find this to be rather narrow view of truth, as many plausible explanations are not mutually exclusive. Each are pieces of a complex puzzle. My own theory sits somewhere in the middle. People do not mindlessly follow their tribe, but we are not natural born fact checkers either. Yes, we are. He needs to read some of Jonathan Haidt's stuff because naturally, let me show you. Naturally, let me just use an example of my own experience. Naturally, parents have teach their children about Santa Claus, right? So all of the flashes and scenes of what a Santa looks like if someone says Merry Christmas. And but that person saying Merry Christmas is speaking in relevance to Christ 365 days a year, right? Or saying Merry Christ in their mind. So the adults step out the car looking for Santa Claus if they hear someone say Merry Christmas based on their fact checking, right? Their fact check tells them that if you hear someone saying it like that and that deep, that it must be Santa. But the children, based on sound and what their parents teach them, says one thing. But by the time the children, and I'm talking about as young as 2 and 3 years old, their fact check signaling links. They say, that's not Santa. Let me observe. And their heads is tilted to the side like a confused puppy, fact checking and trying to register the truth of what their parents have been telling them or what they've heard based on what they naturally know. So their heads are twisted to the side the whole time. And they're smiling, but they're looking confused based on their truth of fact checking. Merry Christ! And they're like, wait a minute, you're not Santa. So I'm saying, based on what I read from Jonathan Haidt, His theory is that from childhood, children are the best fact checkers. They're naturally born fact checkers. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Okay. Let me get back to what he said. Naturally born. I should have kept my finger on the page. I should have kept my finger. Where was I? Where was it? There it is. His own theory is sit somewhere in the middle. People don't mindlessly follow their tribe, but we are not natural born fact checkers either. When reviewing the Ash, Stanford, and other off-cited psychology studies, it is important to keep in mind that a lot of them were done a long time ago. Our culture has changed and science has moved on. In many aspects, we now have better ways of conducting such experiments. We also use much larger and more diverse samples than before. For example, an examination of 133 studies that have used the Ash type experiment show that conformity with the line judgment task in the US has actually been declining since the 1950s. Son, Chief, Engine du Chewa. Greater light, greater light, greater light, son. Great light to you. Moreover, a lot of studies back in the day were exclusively done on small and homogeneous student samples. More contemporary studies using larger and more diverse samples have found that belief polarization or backfire effects are much rarer than initially thought, and that even when people are motivated, there's a limit. Like Sean Spicer, people do eventually succumb to repeated corrections about their beliefs. And one recent study called the elusive backfire effect, dun, dun, dun. Researchers enrolled over 10,000 subjects. Were you one of them subjects? Any one of you? And tested factual corrections on 52 contentious issues, including immigration. So here they are: immigration, abortion, gun violence, and the Iraq War. The authors could not replicate a single instance of backfire. They concluded that by and large, citizens heed factual information, even when such information challenges their ideological commitments. All this appears to support the Bayesian brain, but it's not so simple. In my own research, I've come to the conclusion that both sides are correct, but misleading on their own. Motivated reasoning and even belief polarization and backfire effects do occur. These are real processes. Backfire. Your back back to me thinking about my sister foot being on fire and all the things that I said. She said, you sound like everything you think about, you got to put it in a sermon. I said, that's what I do now. She said, I said, oh, well. I'm just saying, you at church and your whole foot catch a fire. Isn't that a definite, like, to feel the flame on the foot? I think I said, I wanted to tell her too. Does your foot look like brass? Is it bronze? Or is it crisp? It's bronze. Your foot turned to bronze in flames. But you don't want to be laying on your back in hellfire's flames. No, you don't. So that is a wake-up call for me. Her foot got burnt, but it was a wake-up call for me. Look, he talking about backfire. I'm just saying, wait, back to the backfire. It is a backfire effect. All this appears to support the Bayesian brain, But it's not so simple. In my own research, I've come to the conclusion that both sides are correct, but misleading on their own. Motivated reasoning and even belief polarization and backfire effects do occur. These are real processes. What's important to know is that the seminal studies, these effects were often confined to those individuals who held the strongest or most extreme beliefs on an issue. And that's probably right. But they don't describe the average individual in an average situation. It's not our default state. There often needs to be some contextual trigger that decreases people's motivation to be accurate and increases their motivation to belong, affiliate, and prioritize political commitments. That's a positive thing. On a negative side, there are more and more situations which ramp up these motivations quickly, including divisive social contexts such as online echo chambers. Did I not just hear this word yesterday? Huh? I said that's another word that's echoing throughout the community. Huh? You know, you'll hear one person say a word and then somebody else will be using it and somebody else, and it just goes on and on and on like an echo. That's what he's talking about, including divisive social contexts such as online echo chambers, filter bubbles, and digital wildfires. Is it possible that online is the flaming hot hell? Is it? I'm going to say he said it, not me, but are more on these. Oh, he said, I'll give you more on these in chapter 6. He's going to wait all the way to 666 to explain the echo chambers. So they mentioned echo chambers yesterday. How about we tell them some other words? You go pass it on. Echo chambers, because you're going to hear more and more people saying it just because he said it. But y'all add on. Take it real quick. Filter bubbles and digital wildfires. Perhaps a good explanation of the debate is illustrated by a study I conducted with my colleagues. Here you go with his alter egos at Yale University and George Mason University. He was with the Masons at Yale. We examined the case for backfire in the context of global warming, warming up the hellfire. Given that climate change is such a polarizing issue in the United States, we hypothesize that if backfire or motivated reasoning is likely to occur anywhere, it would be in the context of global warming. To understand how our study arbitrates between these competing explanations of how people reason about evidence. Hey, Chief Introducer, you in the chat. Do you remember where that music come from, that theme song? Can you please type it in the chat if you know? Because I've been asking anybody that can remember with me before I do my live again in the morning, Do you know that intro? And who is the pastor or preacher for that intro phase? Evidence. Does your life show enough evidence? Evidence. What does your life say? Come on now. Anyone? Is there evidence? What does your life? I can't, my voice is gone. I got to save it for tomorrow. But do you know that? Oh, man. Evidence. For we walk by faith, not by sight. That's how the intro goes. I know it. I know the answer. I just want to know, am I the only one who remember that song from the early 80s? Because I promise you, my mother stayed watching that pastor. So we had that intro in our head. Not just me. I know. Hey, wait a minute. Here, let me do this right quick. Because I just want to know. I want to see if my sister remembers. I'm gonna get her on the phone real quick, and I'm gonna let her know. Look, you live real quick. Listen. Hold up. Since you don't know Chief Engine Dushawat, I just want to see if I'm right. Hey, I got you on live real quick. You don't have to do nothing but answer if you know the answer on who's the pastor of this intro. You ready? Okay. Evidence. Does your life. Can you say it louder? Price. Frederick. I think it was Frederick Price. Yes. Okay. Because this morning I woke up before I did my live. That was the song in my head, right? So I said, when I walk the streets, if anybody see me, that's my theme song for the day, right? And so I was like, if anybody came over my live, and I said, but I bet you, my sister, I said, I bet my brother, if I would have asked him before he transitioned, would know who sang that song, or at least he would know the words. So, because I was talking about being raised in the way we should go, and then we only will not depart and all that. But thank you. I love you. All right. Bye. For we walk by, there it is, Royal. That's right. For we walk by faith, not by sight. What's the price, What's the price to have the evidence? Why did I go there again? I saw the word evidence. Wait a minute. I done lost the backfire. Educated, higher educated. I done lost the whole page playing with my sister. Oh, no, I didn't. Yes, hold up. Motivated, average, backfire. To understand how our study arbitrates between these competing explanations of how people reason about evidence, we have to return to Jamie Druckmann's observational equivalence paradox. In other words, we need to disentangle two competing explanations. Either people are motivated by accuracy, but they've been duped by misinformation, or motivated or selectively exposed to just one line of evidence, and would change their beliefs if given the opportunity to do so. Or people are not motivated by accuracy, and as a result will reject and discount evidence that is not congruent with their personal or political beliefs. In a large sample of 6,000 Americans, representative of the population, we find evidence of both accounts. If you were politically conservative, you were significantly less likely to acknowledge scientific consensus on climate change. This is well known. However, importantly, if you were conservative and higher educated, you were even less likely to accept scientific consensus. This evidence is in line with Dan Kahn's motivated numeracy hypothesis. So people do come to the table with prior motivations and political identities. The Last Supper. But this in itself doesn't disentangle the observational equivalence problem. So here's the real insight of our study. We then randomly exposed half of the sample, 3,000 Americans, to the following factual statement. 97% of climate scientists have concluded that human-caused climate change is happening. So what happened? Did conservatives and liberals polarize further once exposed to the disconfirming evidence, like in the Stanford study? No, conservatives, including highly educated conservatives, as well as liberals and moderates, all updated their beliefs about scientific consensus on climate change towards the evidence. No backfire, in fact. Highlighting the strong scientific consensus led to more political agreement on the issue rather than polarization. Importantly, research in context of the 2021 U.S. Capitol Hill attack had found similar results. After exposure to a fact check about false claims of voter fraud, the most cognitively relective Republicans repressed greater confidence in the legitimacy of the election results. Brr, 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 brr. Brr, brr. He just threw that brr, brr, put that in there. Liar, liar. Pants on backfire. When I take away from this that people would what I take away from this is that people do walk around with their preferred beliefs about the world, but they are also open to considering evidence, even when it conflicts with their worldview. We have to consider the equivalence paradox. Perhaps people want to be accurate about perhaps people want to be accurate, but were simply duped by fake news or bad sources of information. In fact, influential disinformation about climate change has been weaponized to undermine accuracy based on motivations and polarized voters on the issue, something we'll explore more in chapter 7. To be clear, I am not suggesting that selective perception, confirmation bias, and motivated reasoning, the left-hand side of my post-truth danger spectrum, aren't commonplace. People can do at least 3 things to respond in response to evidence: update their beliefs in the direction of facts and evidence, not change their beliefs at all, or update their beliefs in the opposite direction, away from the evidence. What I am suggesting is that 3 is the most extreme reaction, but almost the most unusual. Although this is good news, the bad news is that we're heading in the wrong direction fast. Oh, he know he headed there. Okay. But God's love is for everybody, including you, Sander van der Linden. Huh? His name looks like Alexander in the Lion's Den. Huh? You tried to eat somebody up from your lines. This is your book is a lion's den, huh? That's what it looked like. Sander van der Linden. If you want to know more about this author and why I am contesting as I read some of the things, is because I broke down his name. Sander van der Linden. Digital wildfires. Welcome to the age of conspiracy, where the earth is flat. Global warming is just an elaborate hoax, and Satan-worshiping lizard politicians are secretly pulling the strings. Oh, he makes the next chapter look good. He makes the next chapter look good. He says, welcome to the age of conspiracy, where the earth is flat. Global warming is an elaborate hoax. He puts flat earth in conjunction with elaborate hoax of fire and Satan lizards. Fake news antigen number 2, illicit accuracy driven motivations. I don't know. Fake news antigen, illicit accuracy driven motivations. I want to read that one more time. He's getting you prepared for the next chapter, right? Welcome to the age of conspiracy, spirits, where the earth is flat, global warming is just an elaborate hoax, and Satan worship lizard politicians are secretly pulling the strings. Although we all have a basic motivation to hold to accurate views about the world, people have other social and political commitments that they need to balance too. Yet, having such competing motivations does not always mean that people are unwilling to update their beliefs in light of the evidence. What matters is how people decide to trade off their fire and desire to be accurate against their need to be liked and accepted by members of their own social network, a need to be socially accurate. One way to try to resolve the tension between these competing motives is to make them one and the same. In other words, we need to counter and prevent politicalization of science, for example, by communicating scientific and bipartisan consensus on facts and evidence. 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 Unfortunately, as the recent COVID-19, look, this whole chapter, he ain't talking about, he didn't talk about COVID-19 not once, but here you go. Unfortunately, as the recent COVID-19 pandemic has illustrated, eliciting an appetite for accuracy is easier said than done when the science itself becomes highly politicized. All right. The end of that chapter. Get ready. Maybe tomorrow. Ooh, and right at the beginning, Mulder, the truth is out there, but so are lies. Dana Scully, the X-Files, the conspiracy effect. The truth is out there. I want to keep going, but I'm not, because I got to get to that research that I did about my dream that I had past shadow hours. But just know that sometime tomorrow, oh, I don't have to cook. I cooked tonight. Yeah, had a plate ready. I cooked. Ooh, that lemon pepper chicken good. Yep, I cooked. Them collard greens is all right. Y'all know I love to fix my peas and rice. And that cornbread was very moist. So I don't have to cook. So that means I may be on here much earlier because I will be excited. I used to be an X-File fanatic. Like I said, I love now. I don't like missing Sunday school. And every day I got to read this word. Every day I got to flip the pages in a King James version. All that. Not the King James version. I changed my beliefs, updated my information. So chapter 3, the conspiracy effect tomorrow. And let me tell you this information. I may not read all of it because I asked Bing some questions about stuff that went on in my dream realm, right? And because me and her have been getting deeper and deeper into, you can't just text me anything and I'm going to be all right with it. You just can't have text because I'm going to challenge you, Bing. Because I've studied, rightly divided the word of truth. Within my love and light codes, rightly divided. So you just can't throw me anything, right? So now her response is then got when I ask a question. Now, if it's just from the word, a confirmation about the word, it'd be straight to the point. But when it's something that, she don't just throw me anything, because all right, first question. Oh, this was yesterday's on. And when I asked her how many times was moon mentioned in the Bible. Okay. Yeah, it's some stuff that I want to get together with my stuff about Mars. Uh, there is no bars. So for you, not for Elon. Okay, so I asked her, how many verses did Jesus use exclamations in ancient manuscripts? Man, I'm telling you, she did like one large paragraph, two, three, four, five, six, seven. She gave me 7 lengthy paragraphs to answer that question. She could have easily said, well, in ancient manuscripts, they didn't even use out. Nah, nope, nope, nope. She could have said, well, you are the living word. Why you need to worry about the exclamations? Because I wanted to know, was it right when I rightly divided the word and it came out of my mouth today and I said it with such passion and exclamation? I went in, I said, the devil can't be in a clean house, huh? Them demons can't be in a clean, they can't live together in a clean house. Once they get in there, the house is dirty. And when you get rid of the devils and the demons, you get rid of the demons when they come back. If you let them back in, that's why I said, no, I lock the door, close the door, I'll turn the key, I'll block you all the way out. Huh? Ain't no way, because if I let one demon come back in, if I let one come back in, he ain't coming in by himself. He bringing 7 more, huh? Huh? Oh, yes, I got to the point my blood pressure went sky high. Use a lie. Huh? Let me get off of here. I don't even want to talk about this stuff with my dreams anymore. I'm just going to tell y'all what I asked. If you interested in looking it up for yourself, study to show thyself approved unto God, huh? Look, look, look. How many times did Jesus use exclamations in the manuscript? She went in on that. Then I asked her, in the 4th century, this has to do with the dream that I had last night. In the 4th century, a structure was created similar to D-Wave or some combination of artificial intelligent medium or gateway. Explain. So she tried to act like she didn't know, but she explained some stuff. Because I clearly heard the word 4th century. And I clearly saw it. I mean, it was just so vivid. So I made sure that I would held on to it. So in that, because it's supposed to be destroyed. Whatever it is supposed to be destroyed or gonna be destroyed. In my dream, in the dream realm. So I was trying to figure out what it is, exactly what box or cube or thing structure that was. So then I asked her, name all the significant religious structures created in the 4th century. And the thing is, my phone started where I had to keep repeating it because it made my whole internet shut down on my phone now. This just on mobile data, regular mobile data. I ain't even on Wi-Fi. I just kept shutting down. Then she kept saying, you got to read something, what she said. So I had to keep doing it. Then I asked her, name all the significant religious structures again created in the 4th century. So she goes again. Then I asked her, name the significant technological sites. That's where I felt like would give me more of an answer or response to what it is that I was looking at in dream realm last night, past shadow hours. Name the significant technological site created in the 4th century. And she names off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the one that sticks out to me is this university that was founded in the 5th century, and it was India. This one sticks out. Now, these other ones, like I know about them, but it doesn't fit well with what I saw. So, and then I asked her, well, can you mention many more, especially any that were cube shaped? And she goes on to say none of them are really cube shaped except for um, Mecca, but that was built. Okay, it says reconstructed 7th century. Oh, so that was in 4th century. Oh, 21st century BC. Oh, goodness. But it was specifically the 4th century. So, and then I see here something about the temple of Saturn. So she goes into the temple of Saturn, and then she gives measurements and columns and all. So I'm going to go over this on my own. I just wanted to share that towards the end of this biased foolproof book by Sander van der Linden. Greater light. I appreciate y'all coming over here, hanging out. Told you we had cell phones in the day of Noah. Told you we had cell phones in the day of Noah. Your cells, your DNA. I know you had cells and phonetics in Noah, in the knowing, huh? Yeah, oh yeah. Royal and loyal, thank you. Greater light, you go study to show thyself approved unto God. A workman that would need not to be ashamed when you rightly divide the word of truth. 2 Timothy, 2nd chapter. Alexander in the lion's den. What did he do with Daniel? He didn't do nothing with Daniel. Daniel's blood protected him. It was beings down there that wasn't down there. Wait, is that the fiery furnace or the lion's den? What happened to Daniel in the lion's den? I don't know. Let me find out. Greater light, and thank you, royal and loyal. You was raised in a way, or do they still play that theme? Do they still play it, royal and loyal? Evidence. Alchemos 83. Greater light, if you still here, and I'm over and out. Great light. I'm gonna go ahead and play my so-called favorite new my favorite new background music. Greater light. Like I told the newscaster, I don't want to be scholarly. This ain't about my face. I said, if you want, you could have the camera on my shoes, Because it ain't about me. It's the love and light of Christ, he did all the scholaring. I don't want to be scalded up either. I just thought about it. I'm not telling, well, I still say thank you, I thank you. But wait a minute. I appreciate it. But I don't want to be scalded up. Royal and loyal.